Hey, what's going on, guys? Bflattened here with a brand new video today. Today we're going to be covering SnapShot Amara. This is going to be utilizing the Dark Army glitch that I talked about 2 weeks ago. If you haven't seen that video yet, feel free to check the description, and there's going to be a link somewhere on the screen right about now. So go ahead and check that out if you wanted to see the glitch a little bit further and in depth. Let's go ahead and take a look at the skills first. We'll go into the gear, and then we'll talk about the interaction that's going to be working with everything that we're utilizing here. So in the green tree, we're using personal space. Personal space is just for the bonus damage by getting close to distance. Root to rise just to move down the tree. We don't really need it. You could do clarity if you feel like it, but 2 points just to move down the tree. That's also all you need. Arms deal for splash damage is going to be incredible for whenever we throw our Dark Armies. Helping Hands and the Clarity are just from our class mod. Vigor for 3 is super important, and Mindfulness for 3 is also super important. We have 3 more points in Mindfulness from our class mod, the Driver. But in Green Tree, Mindfulness and Vigor are going to be the big interactions here. Inside Purple Tree, we're taking more splash damage. So splash damage on top of splash damage is going to be working with our Dark Armies. Blue Tree, we're going all the way to Capstone. So fast hands for reload speed, weapon swap speed. Do harm and violent tapestry just to move down the tree. They're not super important. Restless for action skill cooldown. This is going to be for our grasping and fake grasping. You'll see what that's going to be used for very soon. Transcend for critical hit damage. Alacrity for reload speed. Fire rate and charge time. For from rest, the fire rate is going to be for our emptying of our our Dark Armies as soon as possible. Laid Bear, enemies take increased damage from all sources for a few seconds after being damaged by Amara's action skill. So the purpose of this is going to be using ties that bind. All enemies that are going to be linked up are going to be taking damage from this and indiscriminate at the same time. So they get increased damage taken. Amara gains increased gun damage. This effect is increased after she activates her action skill. So Wrath and Laid Bear together are going to be working hand in hand. They are 2 excellent skills, especially when you're emptying your Dark Army before reloading. 1 point into Remnant because you don't need any more than that. All the overkill will be thrown into a ball. The ball is going to seek out a target, blow up that target, and you get a free kill off of it. And then Avatar, you get 2 action skills. And finally, in our red tree, we have 5 Anima. Anima is going to be for status effects. Steady Hands for accuracy and weapon handling. This is so that we can have our reticle gets like a smaller circle, so it's more accurate. That's what Steady Hands is for. Infusion for 5. Infusion used to be bugged a long time ago, where having 5 points in Infusion was going to completely break it and bug it out. But you can have 5 points into Infusion, and you can be totally fine. Tempest is going to be super important for this build. Elemental damage. Our Dark Armies are elemental, so we get that increase. If we're using shock damage, we get it even further. Indiscriminate, so whenever we're shooting our Dark Army, we get the indiscriminate ricochets. Catharsis, because Catharsis is good for 1 point. You can have a bunch of things dip into this. It's not really useful for 3 points, but 1 point is actually really useful for it. And finally, Sustainment 1, because you don't need any more sustainment. You don't need any more than 1 point sustainment for lifesteal. As long as you shoot 1 target, you get you get full HP. So that's going to be our skill tree here. You can swap between Blight Tiger for Corrosive, Cold Hearted for Cryo, Soulfire for Fire, and if you unequip them all, you get Shock. That way you have access to all of Amara's elements. And we are also utilizing Ties That Bind that we talked about earlier. This is going to be for chaining Vigor. Now, speaking of Vigor, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Vigor is extremely important for this build because Vigor, not a lot of people know about this, but Vigor is actually a stacking skill. So what that means is that you can activate multiple instances of Vigor multiple times over. It has very fast diminishing returns, so it's almost impossible to catch. However, with ties that bind, and if you get the kills fast enough, you can usually get about 2 to 3 stacks of vigor before it starts to go away. So you definitely want to utilize that as quickly as possible. So generally, you want to ties that bind your enemy, shoot the target that's there, indiscriminate all the enemies that are around, get a couple kills, get your movement speed stacking, and then you are good to do the interaction that we're about to show. For the actual build itself, any dark armies, you want dark armies with any element that you choose. I usually like to do corrosive cryo or shock cryo. We're going to be using a terror version of this build because the terror damage and fire rate is going to empty our magazines even faster, and we also get increased damage on top of it. So I use the EMP5 in order to move faster. We want to make sure that we want to move as fast as possible in order to do the snapshot that I'm about to show you guys. The Revolter, this is for fire rate and shock damage, is going to empty our Dark Armies even further. If you don't know, when you empty the Dark Army completely from magazine from full to empty, your Dark Army clones are going to be getting the element that you were shooting out of that Dark Army. So if we're using Corrosive and we empty our Corrosive Dark Army, our 3 following clones will have all corrosive damage as well. So we want to empty that magazine as quickly as possible. I have action skill end on here for terror, so whenever I use my action skill, I give myself terror. It's piss for debuffs and also terror fire rate and damage. So fire rate on top of fire rate, we're emptying our dark armies very, very quickly so we can utilize that elemental damage as soon as possible. Finally, the driver with splash radius SMG. Unfortunately, I didn't get this one perfect, but splash radius and SMG is going to be really good for the Dark Army, and the 3 mindfulness is exactly what we needed for this driver. And finally, we're using a combination between Snowdrift Victory Rush and Elemental Projector Victory Rush. We swap between the two. The Snowdrift Victory Rush is going to be for sliding movement speed, and then as soon as we're done with the movement speed aspect of the build, we switch over to the EP Victory Rush so we can hit ourselves with an element. That way our Dark Army can do even more damage. I have it with grenade damage, which is going to be for throwing the Dark Army, and action skill cooldown rate so that we can utilize our action skills even further. The XP gain from combat, unfortunately, is not amazing. If you do get a perfect one, I would recommend anything between whatever element you're using for your Dark Army. AoE is good too. Grenade damage, action skill cooldown, those are all really, really good ones to utilize. I would not recommend mag size because you want to empty your Dark Army as soon as possible. So that would be the only bad thing that I would have on that. Other than that, that's the entire build. Let's go ahead and get into the glitch portion of this build, the snapshot portion. So what you want to do is you want to swap into the Dark Army that you're not going to be using. So for example, we're going to be not using this cryo one. That's what you want to lead with. So now we're going to stack up Vigor a couple times by killing a couple enemies. Once these enemies are killed and we get a couple of kills of Vigor stacked up, that's when we can start moving around like crazy. So we swap to our EMP, we move around like crazy. We light ourselves up by doing a fake grasp. We got hit with a cryo bullet, how unlucky. So now what we want to do is when we hit maximum speed, and we know we hit maximum speed, we want to slide and swap to the Dark Army that we're going to be using for the battle. So slide and swap over the Dark Army, just like that. Now remember, it does not persist through death. It does not persist through map transition. Also, if you are in Scourge's Arena for Guardian Takedown, it does not persist through traveling between the dimensions. So you got to reactivate it and reapply it every single time you do this. So what essentially happens there is the 3 Dark Army clones will all get the movement speed of the driver's gun damage. So the faster that you move, the more gun damage that you do. Your clones also do this. However, if you do it the way I did it, while you slide in with max speed and then swap in into that Dark Army, those Dark Army clones remember and snapshot the movement speed that you had at that time that you were moving. So they will always do that every single time that they shoot. Even if you swap out of your artifact, Even if you are like moving slowly as hell, they will always remember that damage and they will always have that damage going through, no matter how fast you're moving. So they will always be doing maximum driver gun damage, and that's the snapshot portion. Now what we can do is we can swap over to the EP Victory Rush. We can start Fate Grasping so we can take Corrosive Dots so that our Corrosive Dark Army does even more damage. And then everything kind of just melts in front of us. Sounds pretty good. It is completely overpowered. Let's go ahead and show that off now. Once the Dark Armies actually start targeting the things I want them to target. Whichever target you are shooting at, that's what the Dark Army clones should be shooting at for you. However, they sometimes have a mind of their own, and there comes the damage in there. That was with resisted damage, by the way, because it's cryo, and we're shooting cryo damage from our terror. But it still melted it like it was nothing. I should have a couple of clips that are going to be either at the very beginning or the very end of this video that show just how fast it can melt off Wotan and Kraken and all forms of high HP bosses in the game. Raid bosses. Everything kind of just dies before you. You don't really have to do much. The clones kind of just do it for you. That Bind is going to do elemental damage for us. Remnant's going to do elemental damage for us. The cool thing is that when the clones are doing elemental damage, they can actually heal you with sustainment as well. Not a lot of people know about that. You shooting your Dark Army, you're healing yourself with sustainment, so you're always going to be in good hands and alive. You know, if Amara's ball action skill is good for raid bossing, absolutely. Because you can double dip melee damage into it. So if you have like a Psycho Stabber with 150-90, you can put 150-90 melee damage into that ball twice before sending it off to the raid boss. It'll generally one-hit kill any boss in the game. So yes, it is very good. The mobbing portions of this is very, very strong, and the bossing portions of this is also very strong. You gotta remember that whatever target you're shooting, that's the target that your clones are going to be targeting too. Looking away or targeting at something else will confuse the clones. So you gotta make sure that you're aiming at the right thing you want to aim at. I actually should be aiming at this one for indiscriminate. Now here's the real test. Can it take out 42 billion HP Trons? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt this could take out 42 billion HP Tron. But you know what? We might as well test it, right? Doing corrosive would also be a really bad idea. Do I have a better plan for this? Maybe shock cryo? I don't know. Yes, we're gonna do shock cryo for this. And we'll take off Blight Tiger. I've never actually done this before, so this is gonna be completely new for me. Let's go ahead and reapply it. Want to go ahead and reapply our snapshot. Probably get a couple kills actually while we're here. At least we're gonna get Tempest out of this. That'll be nice. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. And slide snapshot. That's not full damage. I don't like that. Every once in a while when you reapply it, you'll know when you're at max speed or max movement for max damage. You'll kind of get a knack for it. Took me about a couple days for sure. A couple days of playing around with the build to fully get it. And that should be good. And here comes Fear. What's up, Swin? How you doing? Oh, I wasn't using the Snowdrift the entire time. But is missing action skill increased speed because of how the driver, because of how the driver and mindfulness work. The way that that works is this one right here. Whenever Amara applies her action skill, she applies her action skill element to herself, and because of that, mindfulness takes over. Whenever Amara takes damage, she gains a stack of mindfulness. For every stack of mindfulness, you get movement speed. So you damaging yourself is you taking damage. You know, for this being a complete and utter test, and this not necessarily being a build that's set for anything above 10 billion HP, this is actually not horrific. This is not horrific at all. It's actually doing, chipping some damage. He's also resisting cryo too, so that doesn't help me either. I'm also not at maximum move speed for this either. I kind of want to do that. Not at max move speed right now. I kind of want to do that. Let's get max move speed for this. Oh shit, I'm gonna die here. I'm looking for a build to raid boss, kill raid boss Captain Hunt. Check out my hot potatoes video on YouTube. Type an exclamation mark builds and you can get access to all my builds. That'll probably be the easiest. Alright, we got this. We're gonna go max movement speed on this. Let's be able to utilize this further. Perfect. Okay, now we're at max move speed. Get a debuff. And now let's go EP. Apply damage to ourselves. There we go. There's the damage I was looking for. Now, shock on flesh, this is going to be a bad combo because this is going to be double resist now. No, all the Trons have the same amount of HP. They're all 42 billion. Yeah, shock is not going to be the greatest on this. I don't have a fire one on me, unfortunately. Let's do corrosive, I guess. Go back to corrosive. Light Tiger in there. Not going to be the greatest, but it'll be a little bit better. Couple misses in there. Swap. Alright, now we're good. His elemental resist is pretty crazy. I kind of wish I had a fire for this on me. Before this build gets uploaded, I'm probably going to throw a fire Dark Army plus for you guys. Don't you worry about that. Let's do shock. Shock was better. Shock was definitely better for this. Haunt and Traunt are all about element matching. And unfortunately, I don't have the right one with me. That's why I'm getting screwed over. Oh, I broke something. All about element matching. Go, get the SnapShot going. And let's swap those out. Now we should be good. I royally screwed myself over by not having the right elements. Gonna happen though. Gonna run out of ammo soon. I'm pretty sure we have a cut purse on. We should be good. We'll be fine. Yeah, so cryo and shock, really bad ideas for Trons. Do not recommend. I think that's gonna go way over the video length. Yeah, get a fire one. I'm going to toss in a fire dark armory on this build. I do have shock, I do have cryo, I do have corrosive as of right now. Got a couple nades in here if you want to play with those. A couple of drivers in here, a couple victory rushes. A few things to play around with for sure. Toboggans are also pretty good. Couple more drivers. There's a cut first launch pad in here just so you can get some healing or some ammo regen. My bad. Feel free to play around with the build. The build is going to be in Discord as always, and feel free to download it there. My name is Bflattened, and I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.